This is the monthly PEG Commission meeting, May 5th, 6 p.m. Let's call this to order. Roll call. We have myself, Allison, and Alyssa.
It's okay.
And Al here. Next is the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And then next is approval of the agenda, which I have handed out to everybody. It's pretty much the same as we've been doing. Not much is changing right now. But I did notice in the folder you only had minutes for last month's regular meeting. You did not put minutes together for the special meeting.
Did I need to have them for the special meeting?
We should, yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
I mean, it's basically we had a special meeting, we discussed, and then we left.
I can.
So we won't have those tonight for approval. So,
Yep.
So with that correction, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minute or the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there support?
There is.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda approved. That then takes us to approval of the minutes of the April 7th meeting, which were also just handed out. Any comments or corrections?
I put the total off the bill, or off the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was the appropriate place to put it, but I did anyways, and then I wasn't really sure about the Manistee Tourism Board, other than just talking about the calendar.
Right.
I mean, that was the only comment.
I met with them since last meeting, so I'll give an update tonight.
Cool.
So with that, entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there support? We have motion and support to approve the minutes of the April 7th meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. We have no public here tonight. Correspondence. The things I've received relate to Charter Spectrum, so I'll just talk about that when we get to that old business item. Director's report. I don't really have anything new to add there. City videos are still getting posted. Filer moved their meeting from which would have been tomorrow night to last Friday afternoon, and they said I didn't need to come to record it since it was in the middle of the workday for me. And then this coming Thursday is the Manistee Township meeting, which I'll record. So those little things keep going. Nothing.
Do you stick around for all those?
Yeah.
If you ever need coverage, just if you give that number.
You have mentioned that, and I someday should follow up on that.
The one for the city council
That was the
debate.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's director's report. Then moving on to old business, Charter Spectrum. So last meeting we approved the contract. So I signed that, sent that in. I got a response back from somebody that basically says they're looking to schedule us, but no firm date on that yet. And then on Friday, I got an email from a gentleman, I think he's out of Ludington, who actually did the walkthrough and kind of site survey, and I suspect that he's actually the one that's gonna do the work. I just haven't had a chance to respond to him yet, so I think that actually might move forward sooner rather than later, so that would be good. Now I just hope that the status of Kennedy Elementary is amenable to not only, I'm sure they can install the line in its current state, but will they allow me to move our equipment in there and actually enter the building and, periodically access it, so.
Is there a reason why they wouldn't?
But it's in the middle of reconstruction. So, but I do know that a couple weeks ago, they gave a full tour to the school board, and the photos I saw of the tour looked like parts were done. So, just hopefully my little corner is done.
Curious,
Or done enough.
like, once they tell you yes, and
Yep.
they'll install, and they go and install it on Wednesday, like, how long does it take you to set everything back up in there, like the server and the computer and things? Like,
It's really
a
just
couple hours,
moving, it's really just moving a desktop computer over there
Oh,
and
that's it.
plugging it in. There is a bunch of legacy stuff that belongs to this organization that really serves no purpose anymore, and
And video equipment and things?
yes, so there's actually a rack for equipment that used to store hard drive arrays, and an old video server that died. So I don't really know, and then there's a big case that's got like cables and microphones and stuff. Old legacy analog cameras
Yeah.
and stuff. So the last move that I did, we moved from a different room at the high school over to this current room that we're in, which is smaller. So I purged probably about 3/4 of the stuff that was clearly never gonna get used again. But kept some stuff just thinking, well, maybe, but now it's been 5 years and that hasn't been touched, so I think that is just all gonna, although there's a big, but it's analog, but there's a big analog soundboard
Yeah,
that, maybe has some value,
you never know.
which is why I didn't throw it away last time, but, but at some point, I'll need to figure out the strategy on that.
Take a picture with Google Lens
Yeah,
and see what comes up.
okay, that's a good idea. So that's the update on Charter Spectrum. So then, actually, I guess under, reboot PEG, so I have to apologize, and as you've probably figured out by now, I did not get to setting up what I said I was gonna set up at our work session. That next day after that work session, I spent the entire day in the ER. First starting here at 6 in the morning in Manistee, and then ending up in Traverse City at the end of the day, so.
So why didn't you do it?
Had some issues, and then last week I was just trying to get caught up, so. I do, they were able to finally figure out what was going on. So with that did not get done. I'm gonna really target this weekend to doing that. So once I get that set up, I will send you both emails so that you can log in and
Okay.
kind of see and kind of move forward from what we had intended to do after that meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay, and that was like a test site, Alyssa, to like, us test location to try whatever software is available on that
With
platform.
logins that you could start going in and changing things and experimenting and
Great.
just doing stuff. So, so that's that. I also was reminded by reading the minutes, and we were talking about it earlier, so I did have an opportunity to talk with Manistee Tourism, and they are, explain what we're trying to do. They're in the midst of a website redesign and how calendaring works is an integral part of that for them. So they're certainly willing to work with us on trying to accomplish all of our goals together. So I think it was a good productive meeting. Obviously at this point there were nothing really beyond just kind of introductions of what each side was doing. So.
Okay.
Was that possibly using the software that we were talking about before?
Well, we haven't really identified any particular software.
Okay.
What you were showing us is basically, that can be accomplished by a lot of different softwares. That was really kind of looking at how it looks and how it interacts. But the functionality that we're looking for to be able to kind of allow users to kind of self-register events with some sort of a review approval process, and then really good categorization of events so that the tourism authority can narrow down to, we're interested in these events. City website is interested in these events, and the library might be interested in these events, and there may be overlap there. So it's really about categorization and tagging and trying to figure out all that, and that's the functionality that matters to us. We also care how it looks, so that's a piece of it. From the tourism authority, they have their own requirements as to what they're looking for as far as features and functions. So trying to find a software that meets all those requirements is that piece of the puzzle.
Understood.
So, question, and maybe,
Yep.
that's old business you're still talking about?
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about it on new, I'll hold my question.
Okay. Are there any other updates on, has anyone else thought of anything, looked at anything, has anything that they think is important to bring up?
I mean, I did, like, just some stuff on ChatGPT, like what things would look like, and pull information. Anecdotally though, like, I think no less than 2 different people had told me, I said about the calendar, they're like, oh, that's so cool, when are you gonna do it? Like, it's there's just a need keeps on getting identified. As soon as you talk to anybody doing anything in the community, be it at the Ramsdale or doing something with music, or something like that.
Cool,
So
cool.
business cases.
You see it and
Yeah.
you hear about
Yeah.
it, and that's good, that's
And you do
good.
too, otherwise you
Right.
wouldn't be pursuing this.
Right,
So.
right.
And Alyssa does, because she's always talking to people about community stuff.
Yeah, I have been thinking about, like, to brainstorm a little bit about how we are going to introduce this to the community. If you have any ideas.
Do you have ideas?
Kind of, but they're not, I need to brainstorm a little bit more and get your input on
Okay.
some things. Especially somebody who knows the community better than maybe all 3 of us do. Maybe you know the community better than we do. But, yeah, a way that, maybe Chamber of Commerce.
Well, so I'll mention a couple thoughts that I've
Mhm.
had on this topic is, well, one piece of this is, and it gets back to kind of the software requirements of what we're gonna need is, I think it's very important that the system we put together has the ability to notify people proactively of new events. Whether that be by email or maybe text messaging, or, there's so many different ways to notify people, but you can't do them all. And that gets into that categorization again. So if you've got all these events well categorized, and then you can basically say, I want to subscribe to notifications on music events, or maybe even more granular than that, certain types of music, so that when these things get entered, you get notified. because it's my firm belief that the best website in the world can be there and have all the information, but no one thinks to go look. Like, for whatever reason, we know that information exists, but when we're looking for things to do, we don't really go search in some of the obvious places. It's like, oh, I don't know what's going on tonight. Okay. But that's why I think getting notified is important, so that, whether it's weekly or, however you want to set it up, you could probably get it daily or, weekly or whatever granularity and frequency you wanted. So then, how do you get people to first discover the site, interact with it enough that they're willing to give their notification information, whether that be signing up for an account or giving an email address, whatever. Again, it all depends on how this technically ends up being implemented. And to that, I think it's ultimately, we're going to need to spend money basically advertising this service to a relatively small community. I mean, Manistee County's got 25,000 people, and whether that be through Facebook advertising or something, but I think it's...
Crazy. I was gonna make a joke, like, put it on Facebook.
But again, the
That's where
way
you have it. That's
Facebook works today is you don't see generally local stuff. You see what people are paying for
Yeah.
you to see, and that's just the nature of that game. Or endless streams of cute little videos.
Yeah.
You have
Just
to-
textual posts of things. It's just, it's their roots, but it's not, what most users' content consists of these days. So, now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways of getting the word out there, but I think it's things like that are going to be a necessary piece. So those are my thoughts. And again, as you, I think, said when you started this, we need to brainstorm on this. Those are my brainstorms. Nothing's set in stone. This
Sure.
is just what I've thought of as I've thought about some of this over the time.
Float, parade. Honestly, like a parade, something in the parade. Once you have content, right? Like,
Yes. Yep.
not this 4th of July. Sleigh bells. Banner behind an airplane on 4th of July. Honestly.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't be able to put something up on Facebook? No.
I wouldn't think so.
We could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there needs to be kind of a transition. I'm sure a lot of people will still use it. I'm not saying that we're trying to take over for Facebook, but
Right.
that tends to be the primary way
Yeah.
that people communicate. So,
And that's why I said Facebook advertising.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, generally when you advertise on Facebook, you have a page that has the content, and then you're just paying for it to go to the people you want.
Right,
So it gets there.
right.
This way you'd have like a URL to the site itself,
Right.
and like on Overheard and Manistee and those groups,
Yeah,
like, put it on there.
exactly.
Yeah.
City website,
Yeah.
the places people go.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I think trying to reach others, a few dollars to do that, so. Okay, anything else? That was a good question.
I do think it would be good to kind of find a layman's description.
Oh, yeah, the terminology and how we explain things and how we essentially need, going back to my business days, an elevator pitch that is the 20-second version of what we're doing that we can just roll off and rattle to everyone we meet. That explains this in a nutshell. And what we have right now is not there.
Right. If you recall, I did those like business case rules and like
Yep.
just some initial stuff, but I can easily refine it.
Yep.
as part of like the initial push to get this body, the city council or whoever you need to run it by.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, here's how it's gonna, here's like a business rule for posting, here's the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a mock-up of the front page of what it's gonna look like.
Right.
Here's what a mock-up of an actual event looks like. Yeah.
And you said something in there that triggered the thought in my mind that, you know, we have multiple audiences in this. We have those consuming the content, but we also want to get to all the event hosters, and that's a very different message. So, you know, we've got to figure out how to, you know, give a broad message to, but also then selectively get it out, the word out there to, you know, random people throughout our community that host events, which, you know, that's the catch-22. We don't even know who they are. And because we don't know who they are, most people don't know who they are, which means is why they're struggling getting the word of their events out. So it's yeah, those are interesting challenges.
So what's, are we talking old business or new business now?
I was just gonna say, if we're
Transition?
done, we can switch over to new business.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything on the agenda, but
Well,
you have
that-
something in mind?
Well, no, the news business is like the next steps.
Okay,
Like,
yes.
I mean, I didn't do the notes for this, but we kind of talked about some of the functionality.
Yep.
And like how postings would work and like where like a video of a city or council would reside or how it would reside on the site and just had some
Yep.
very broad brush strokes. But like the idea of like coming together, even if it's another planning session, in interim between this one and the next one, like I can refine the business case part of it in those other documents. And then just come in here and like, let's just make
Right.
a mock-up on PowerPoint or whatever we have to do.
And that's why I've got to get this demo site up with just some of the basic things we talked about in that last meeting. And once that's done and you've had a chance to look at it, then we need to get back together to really kind of, okay, this is, what do we need to do to start moving it forward? You know, things like terminology. What do we call these things? You know, are these events? Are they something else? What do we call, because we have this concept of, you know, the calendar that's talking about future events. Then what we traditionally do is all about events that have occurred in the past. They're different, but yet they're related. Do we use the same terminology? How do we not confuse people? If they're looking for a video of last week's city council meeting, how do they know what they're looking for versus someone is looking for what's happening at the Ramsdale this weekend? Again, it's
Yeah. So is it fair to, like, the next meeting in June, whatever that date is, like, I can post, like, you know, a draft elevator pitch, a draft set of, like, business rules, we'll call them, or posting rules, or, you know, marketing, a
Yep.
marketing thing.
Yep.
Business plan light, that you could, I know we can't discuss it on email, but you can
Right.
look at it and come
Yep.
with your thoughts.
Yep.
And then we can just pull it up, change happy to glad or whatever we need to do.
Mhm.
And then also do the same for, potentially, for
Yes.
a mock-up
Yep,
at the next meeting.
that would be great.
Okay, all right.
So specifically, just take what you said, you're gonna produce some documents.
Yes.
And all of us should have read those documents and marked them up with suggested
your
changes before the next meeting. Likewise, I will get this demo website up for, you know, it's basically a PowerPoint in website form.
Okay.
And again, have looked
Jump
at
on
it and come with your notes of, here are my thoughts, so that we have a productive.
Yeah, that's good. And like, it'll kind of be a regular meeting and a
Yep.
brainstorming all in one
Yep,
session.
because our regular meetings are basically 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I was thinking, would it be helpful if I came up with a list of demographics and potential terminology?
sure.
And then just see if, because I'm not even sure if I have the right idea of what all this is all about.
Yep.
So, I'm
And
a little
that's-
nervous about doing that because
But attempt it.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
it's, you know, we're not gonna criticize it. I mean, you can use that to learn, we can use that to communicate, and, you know, it's through those interactions where we actually figure out what it's really gonna be, because until that. But that's also why I want to do some sort of this mock-up, because until you start seeing things, it's all just, you know, each of us probably has a completely different idea in our heads. And until you start with something and you have those conversations, like, I was thinking this, and I was thinking that, and it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, and you come to those conclusions.
yeah.
Maybe like our desired end state of that meeting, we're on the calendar for 2 June,
Okay.
could be like a 90% solution on like the, you know, elevator pitch and the business plan,
Mm-hmm.
and then like a 50% on the mock-up.
Okay.
Just
Yep,
and then
yep.
and then thereafter can go to the city, because you'd have to start making a pitch then internally, or
I don't think I mean,
no?
we got sort of a blessing when we presented in November.
Yeah.
We exist under the city council. We gave them the opportunity. Our meetings are posted, and we have, you know, dollars in our fund balance to do what we're planning on doing. So
Even better.
I don't think
Okay.
that is necessary. I mean, each year, in November is our scheduled month, we give city council an update, so at least at that point, there will be another check-in. I might, I mean, depending on how we feel about things, we might want to, you know, just, you know, I could go to public comment at a meeting and just kind of give a
Yeah.
brief update if there's something that we think they need to see or hear about, and, you know, potentially getting the charter stuff back online might be that
Yeah.
thing, because I know city council members do get questions of why isn't it available? So once that gets resolved, that
Yeah,
is good. And then we can also just, you know, give a little bit of an update as to where we stand on other things.
So, like, do you have to have a meeting? So we meet in June, we
Mhm.
have a mock-up, you don't necessarily need to go back to the city council to build,
Right.
to contract the construction of the site, right?
Well, we have to figure out what that would mean, and, you know, assuming it fits within our budget or
Right.
our, you know, our funding, then, you know, no, but if it were to go beyond that, then obviously
Okay.
that
So-
would be a different
Yeah,
scenario.
for sure, hopefully it doesn't go beyond. But, okay, so we meet in June, we have a 50% solution. You could, I'm just talking, right, you could give it to somebody to say, could we do this? And you could have an answer by, like, the July meeting potentially,
Yeah.
and like with a cost of like what it would be.
Oh.
And then like, then between July and like August, they do it,
Mhm.
and then we get the first events published, like, and have like the first things on it, like in August, like, I don't know, I mean, I'm just, because I don't think it's, once it's, the shell is there, right? Like, it's not like we're, you know, building a power plant,
Right.
like,
Right.
anything like that, right? It's not that big of functionality.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
But as we go through the weeds, you know,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna be an interesting part of discussions that somewhere along the lines is that, you know, we'll need to look for calendaring software, et cetera, and we're not going to be in a position of changing and adding functionality to those pieces.
Right.
So, you know, we may say, we've got 3 different calendaring pieces of software. Each one covers 90% of our needs, but different sets. Then we have to decide, well, which one is, we're gonna have to cut out 10% because we can't find a product that does everything we
Right.
need. Now, which one of these, which subset of things can we live without and make some of those trade-offs?
So, just going back to our meeting last week, the big thing is, you know, the ability to categorize and search future events, and the ability to go back and search these past events, the city council and public meetings.
But then also the whole, I'll call it workflow from an outside person and submitting the data,
Yeah,
it getting, because in my opinion, you just can't take user submitted content and post
Yeah,
it live.
got it.
So some sort of approval process.
yes, admin part.
But then the other part, as you know, we looked at a couple months ago, is how the end user interface looks and how nice or not nice that looks. So that also becomes important because if it has all the technical functionality for the behind the scenes stuff, but it looks ugly.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Right.
And those get into those trade-offs.
Okay, so recapping, I will freshen up the business stuff, I can do that this weekend, the elevator pitch, post it in that folder, and I'll alert you to when I post it, and then you're gonna do the other, build out the
Yep.
mock-up, and then you can, so we can all go in there and look, and then.
Yep.
We also talked about phases, like the first phase being posting of like the public events, like the city, and even the library has a page, but whatever those public events are. And then step 2 would be, you know, nonprofits or something like that. Then eventually get to a step 3, which is people paying to post their events, perhaps, like a business.
Well, and that's a whole
Yeah.
set of discussions of how do we sustain the level of effort this takes to move forward from a dollar standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, advertising, like the place that guy in Onekama has.
It could be advertising, it could be partnerships, it could be fees for posting events. I mean,
Yeah.
there are different ways, but at some point, it would be nice if it could all just magically happen for free.
Right,
But
right.
I think there will be more effort than that is feasible for.
And to really make the case, like if you want to catch, like, in order to find things on Facebook, you have to go to the right group to find them, right?
Yep.
And if you don't belong to those groups, you're never going to find it.
That's true.
So this would be a one-stop shop, so that's like the advantage people have of using this, not to, so, okay. Sounds good?
I think that is then the end of our agenda. So, hearing no further business, I'll make the motion to adjourn. Is there support? Okay, we have support. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.